photos that have been described, and the photos are pretty clear as to what the person looks like. So they have a description to work with and try to be seeking an individual for sure. But they don't have someone in custody yet, and they don't have the identity yet to be putting out. So there's been nobody arrested, or you can parse the wording, whether you want to call it custody or an arrest or detained or any of that. No one has been brought to that status yet where they have somebody that they've been talking to.
All right, Tom, you want to bring in Fran?
Yeah, actually, just Tom, one more question. Do you have a sense whether they are going to appeal again to the public to try to help identify this person, or is this something that at this point they don't feel that's necessary? Do you know?
I understand. I think that would be necessary, and I'm sure they'll continue to appeal it. And even if they had a suspect in custody, they would still be appealing to the public to get additional information to provide ample evidence or more evidence to support the prosecution down the line. So they would always be continuing to seek the public support all through this process of the investigation. And there's going to be as much or more investigation that would need to be conducted after a person's in custody as much as getting them to the point of being in custody.
Right. All right, Tom, let's consider another source. We have Fran Townsend with us now. Fran, what are you hearing?
Wolf Anderson, so look, I've been on the phone, as has Tom Fuentes, as you just heard from him. I've spoken to two senior administration officials and another federal official. All have said what Tom said is right. There's not somebody in custody or arrested. That the situation is very fluid. They're working closely with their local counterparts, that they're working to positively identify the individual who's on these two videotapes, and that there was a misunderstanding. I mean, that was said to me, not so much that we had misunderstood, but that there has been a misunderstanding and lots of cross communications, as understandably as law enforcement tries to work through this, what they've got, who it is, what the purpose of that is, and what the next steps are. So I myself have had conflicting reports, and I wanted just to be clear with you that they think that's a result of the chaos and the quickly unfolding law enforcement situation up in Boston.
So the minimum standard of what we believe to be true right now is that after cultivating evidence of photographs and of videos from surrounding stores in the area, law enforcement believes that they have identified a male who seemed to act in a way that was consistent with putting down a bag that they believe could have contained the bomb, and in the photos seems to exit the scene in a manner and at a time that seems consistent with having put down that bag, knowing what's in it, and leaving. That's what we seem to be comfortable with.
That was the gap we talked about yesterday, that they had stuff before, stuff after, and that image they finally got. That person, though, we do not know, or we cannot confirm, as Fran said, there's just a lot of noise out there, where that person is, or even if we know who that person is. And that is why this press conference has been pushed a couple times by the public officials. The reason is they're trying to figure out what's our message to the public, because this may be part of sort of a manhunt now, which is not atypical.
Very difficult task also, just to keep it in perspective. Everybody wants this person caught 5 minutes ago. But to go from an image in a photo or on a piece of video to knowing who that person is a big leap.
48 hours. It's been a long 48 hours, but it's impressive.
Our Joe Johns is also standing by. I'm told he's not standing by any longer. We'll try to get in touch with him. Joe has excellent sources, and we've been relying on him in the last 48 hours for an awful lot.
I think Joe's
Joe, if you're there, what are you hearing?
Hi, Anderson, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're on the air. What are you hearing, Joe?
Okay. Yes, I have talked to a pair of highly placed Department of Justice officials, and they both tell me that no arrest has been made. It appears that no one is in custody as far as they can tell. I was told by one of these officials that they had actually triple-checked. So that seems to be the case over the Department of Justice, and they've been trying to figure out what the confusion is and where all this information is coming from. Back to you, Anderson.
Right.
It is just a reminder, and a reminder that we have been that we have gotten time and time again in incidents like this. Initial reports so often are wrong. There's so many different agencies involved. There's so many different people who have small pieces of the puzzle. and they tell reporters that small piece, and it allows us to try to paint a larger picture.
Maybe my background in law enforcement that makes me kind of cautious on that, because I do think, I think what's animating a lot of the need right now by government, local, state, and federal, and this JTTF is that something bad happened and unprecedented, 48 hours ago, right? We had not had a sort of successful small-scale terrorist attack since 9/11, and it did shake us. And so what's important is that the investigation is going forward. We're getting these links. It's only been 48 hours. They have a picture of a guy that he hasn't been arrested yet. Should not be viewed as bad.
Critical, though, to this investigation was their ability to secure the crime scene very quickly, to move people out in an ever-expanding radius of blocks.
So when we used to do security at the Boston Marathon, we worried about dehydration and, of course, sort of crowd control issues and exhaustion. And that's what that medical tent used to be for. It became a triage unit before. And the sort of almost, simultaneously a decision to move thousands of people away from coming over the crime scene. Crime scene was huge, was brilliant from a perspective of retaining the evidence.
To divert the runners who had not completed the race.
Because they could have got stuff in their shoes. They could have just walked over things. They would have sort of, made the crime scene messy. It was messy already. You didn't need thousands of runners making it more messy. And I think then that's going to be the solid evidentiary work that then leads to, if we find a person, to bringing the goal here is not just a case, it's a successful case.
So let's do this. Let's close this circle on this initial report that there may be someone in custody. Jake Tapper's over at the court. Jake, if you're with us, is there any sense of any activity on that end?
Well, there sure are a lot of reporters here, Chris. There's a huge media throng. There do seem to be some law enforcement officials out in force as if something is about to happen. But while a crowd has collected to look on to whatever may happen, and there are dozens and dozens of TV cameras and reporters and satellite trucks, there is nothing concrete happening in terms of the perp walk that some seem to be expecting now.
Yeah. All right, let me know if you hear anything. So, to be clear, if there is no arrest, if there is no one in custody,
and multiple sources now are telling a variety of our reporters
that seems to be the case,
and in fact, no name of a suspect.
Yeah, with that we don't know. They might have an internal name that they're not going to disclose because they have some information that's going to lead them in the next 48 hours.
And that's the question. So what would they be doing right now? What are their different avenues to identifying someone that they pick out from a piece of video?
So they might have a picture of this person already through either public sources or through other investigatory sources. So I'll just be careful here. We don't know if this person had been under some surveillance, if they were part of if they were part of a group that the JTTF is already looking for. Are they part of a university or a college or someone that they can then link the facial identifications to, which would then give you a name? If they don't have that, if this is just some random guy, we don't have a picture of him, I would anticipate that by the end of the day, they will probably try to engage the public, as they rightfully should, because the person lived here. I mean,
you have no doubt about that.
We had to have been here for some time. I mean, I have been saying for the last couple days, I know the Boston Marathon's a global event, but it's quite local. And so
why not have made the device somewhere else, driven into town?
You could drive it. It'd be pretty risky to drive because the temperature factors might have this detonate. The bouncing might have it detonate. And I just keep going back to this. This was not a suicide bomber, so that makes it harder, right? Because they have a motive and they're also gone. This is someone who did not want to die for the cause. That means that they wanted to protect themselves as they were dropping this at various sites. And then what that also means is, in the investigation itself, right, in the questioning, this is going to be, you're going to be able to use the fact that he may not be as strong for the cause as, say, a suicide bomber to get information from them. But, I've been saying this, it's just patience. It's hard, I know, but this is the kind of thing that, as I said, we want a case, we want a person, but we want the right case and we want the right person and we want a guilty verdict. That's the goal.
When we hear the Joint Terrorism Task Force is overseeing this, is involved with this, we know the FBI is the lead investigation agency on the case. How does the JTTF work? I mean, they're all sitting in a room together? Yes,
there's actually a room where the JTTF meets. I won't disclose where it is. It's here. It's run by an individual, tends to be an FBI agent. They are, for many things, just sort of a management person, right? They are managing all the different different pieces coming in. And, you know, in this instance, we might have immigration, customs, the Department of Homeland Security may have a big role in immigrations, customs, and border enforcement. You're going to have state and local officials. They sit in a room. When there's not a case, it's a lot of just sharing of information. Hey, we're following up on this. When there is a case, they've been there 24/7. They've gotten support from from DC. There are other people here. You know, part of this, we're all pretty tired. I mean, I know this. But part of what you learn in crises is also sort of emotional management, right, and energy management. And so, yourself. Yeah, you just have to. I mean, it is, and because this could be a long haul. They are then sharing information, but the head of the JTF, who's done a couple of the press conferences, you know, will work with the FBI, and then the case is eventually brought by either the U.S. Attorney here or in D.C.
And in terms of analyzing video, I mean, they have hundreds of videos, thousands of still photographs to go through. So do we have a sense of how big an operation that is? I mean, are there multiple video terminals and screens
and
that are looking at?
I would guess thousands of people are involved because we have different federal agencies that have the capacity. The FBI couldn't do this alone. You're going to have the NCTC, the Department of Homeland Security. NCTC is the Counterterrorism Center. You're going to have state and local have capacity, and so everyone is looking.
And then once they've identified through, say, that Lord and Taylor video and the other video, we believe there are two videos that were key to the identification to the extent that it's been made of this apparent suspect, alleged suspect. Once they do that, I imagine they have to go re-look at everything they've already looked at with that person in mind.
Right, and my guess is that's what made them pretty confident, because they finally had the middle piece that they didn't have before. Then they could go both backwards and forwards and see what this guy was doing. Did he start running after he dropped the bag in terms of time lapses?
But we don't really know how confident they are, right? Because we believe that they saw somebody who they think is acting in a suspicious way, but who he is and what he was doing and what the rationale would be. I mean, to get some context on this, Mike Brooks, I believe, is with us. He's a legal analyst, worked in the area of Homeland Security. Mike, if you can hear us, what would be the basis of sufficiency to make the call to arrest someone in a situation like this?
Yeah, Chris, I was with the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force at the Washington field office for 6 years, and was one of the team leaders with their evidence response team. Also worked bombings overseas, here in the United States. You know, one of the things they're going to do, we talk about technology, we talk about this video and all the pictures. We've seen this picture of this person that we've been looking at. Deb Farrick was talking about the Ben Thorndike photos. This gentleman who we're looking at right here. What they've done, they will take this picture, any video that is along that route, and they will try to put together a timeline going back before, during, and after. And what they'll do is they'll take this video and they will send it to Quantico. The FBI lab at Quantico has an engineering section. I have used them on a number of my cases to help enhance video. And the technology has increased so much, you know, over the years. You know,
Mike?
Yes, go ahead.
Mike, I'm sorry, we just got to jump in. Joe Johns, we're getting word, has some new information out of the Justice Department. Joe, what are you hearing?
Again, Anderson, the sum and parcel of what I've been told is that no arrest has been made. I talked to one justice official who said that person had checked 3 different times, 3 different sources. A second justice official emailed me and said no arrest has been made. So, I mean, that's essentially where we stand at this time. We're trying to get somewhere from the Justice Department
Joe,
about the confusion.
Okay, good.
Yes?
Joe, let me ask you something. Where are they willing to go? No arrest, we've got it. Do they believe they have a specific individual, a name? Do you know what type of level of information they're acting on?
No, not at this time. And I'm not willing, obviously, to speculate on what they may have. The communications have been pretty curt and to the point to me, and it was just a one-sentence statement, pretty much. No arrest has been made. I've checked 3 times. Yeah. So there you have it, at least at this point.
Okay, John King is also now joining us. I know, John, you've been working your sources over the last...
sources. I want to echo what Joe just said, and I was one of the people who was first on the air when we said, you know, Fran Townsend had a federal source saying arrest has been made. I had a Boston source saying we got him. I want to go through this. I'm told they have now checked as high as the Attorney General of the United States, who would know if there's an arrest that has been made. This federal law enforcement source that just communicated with said significant progress has been made. but no arrest. Anyone who says an arrest is ahead of themselves. I went back to the Boston law enforcement source who said, we got him. I said, got him, identification or an arrest. The source says, can't talk to you right now, says there's significant blowback at the leaks, says there will be more information later today. One of the federal sources I was just communicating with said even to say it's an identification, a specific identification, is to go too far. But then I circled back several Boston and state